tired tonight. Oh my goodness, long day.
I think the extreme cold wears you out.
All right, shall we get the show on the road? Good evening, everybody. It is Monday, February 8th. Welcome to our third council meeting of the year. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember James?
Here in Ferndale, Michigan.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May?
Here in
Ferndale, Michigan. Councilmember Polika? And Mayor Piana.
Here and in Ferndale, Michigan. All right, next is the approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as published. I'm not aware of any amendments.
Support.
All right, moved by James, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May. Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May?
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski?
Yes.
Councilmember Polika?
Yes.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
And Mayor Piana.
Yes. And next is the electronic meeting procedures. Again, we're under the Meetings Act. We're able to meet via Zoom until March 31st. Until there's a determination made by the legislature. But I think we can continue though under local emergency declared. But I think Dan, our general counsel, will give us direction at our last meeting of March if any changes will be implemented as how we proceed.
It would be great, Your Honor. I'll plan on doing it.
Thank you. And moving on to the agenda, we're moving to presentations. And first up is on the voting challenge funds distribution. And who is introducing this? Is this Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May? Is this something that?
I think Marnie should introduce it. Right?
Making the same recommendation.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, Mr. Pernick has conducted a voting challenge a couple of times over the past few years, and he puts together a list of surrounding communities, and the voter turnout that's the highest in each community wins a prize. So there are, I believe, first, second, and third prizes. We did not get one of those spots, but Mr. Pernick also is doing $250 for each community that received more than 75% vote, and Ferndale's voter turnout was 77.85%. So Mr. Pernick is here to make a presentation of the $250 donation, and the charity that we are donating to this year is going to be Ferndale.
Welcome. Good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, and congratulations. So, I missed the part just after you said the charity is going to be. So, if you could email, you can tell me now, and I'll just send you a check and tell me where to send it, and I'll be happy to put that in the mail. So,
It's going to Ferndale.
Okay.
Which you may be familiar with, which is our free clinic in Ferndale in the area.
Do I mail it to you or to their address?
You're going to send it to them, Ferndale, and we can put you in touch with the executive director so he can appropriately thank you and
Great.
guide your giving. And thank you for putting such a contest in place for cities as we all try to elevate our voter turnout.
All right, great. And I'll be doing this again in 2 years, so I will keep you advised. Thanks again and congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Pernick.
If I may, through the chair, Mr. Pernick, are you still here?
Yep, I'm here.
We have a couple of new council members, so why don't you kind of explain, because we actually won, I think, a third place win a couple of years ago. So just kind of explain why you do what you do, and just, I think it'd be nice for them to hear.
Well, it's my belief that what makes the city exciting is when all the residents participate. And of course, there's a lot of different city activities that you have that you know about, and voting is just one of them, but voting is easy to track. So I thought this was a relatively simple way of getting people to get involved by having a contest, getting people a little bit more excited in every election every second year. And and it's easy for me to do because I did it through next door. So there's 8 next door communities, so the contest was between them. And like all of us, so it's pretty busy, but this way is a pretty easy way to do it. So I'm happy. So this year I thought, well, there's 8 communities, but anybody who gets 75%, that's actually quite an accomplishment. So I would have a prize just for that too. So I'm glad that Ferndale won, and I appreciate all your efforts to get people involved in the city. I live in Huntington Woods, but I think we all know that when people get involved, it really makes the city more dynamic, more exciting. As you probably know, sometimes it's a pain in the neck if you're on the city council listening to all the complaints, but overall, it's a good thing. So congratulations, and thanks again for participating.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
All right, welcome.
Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
All right, we are moving on to the next presentation, which is 5B on the agenda. It is the Geary and Wonder Park Improvement Project Recap Presentation. And I believe our Parks and Rec Director, Lorena Wheeler, is going to be kicking this off.
Good evening. Hope everybody's doing well.
Good to hear your voice.
All right. So, Kyle, am I sharing my own screen?
Yep, go for it.
Okay. All right. Let me get it up. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yep, we can see it. Go ahead and put it into presentation mode.
All right, there we go. Sorry, I've been in a couple of different presentations over the last week. I haven't been the one showing, so I had to deactivate that. All right, well, thank you for your time. So today I'm going to talk about the Wanda and Geary Park Improvement Project. I just need to do a recap on where we were and where we are now. So since 2018, our Parks and Recreation Department has been working with the city team, as usual, who consists of our Department of Public Works, Community Economic Development, as well as the architect Hamilton Anderson and on-call engineer Nicholas Webster. And we also worked very closely with the community, who was very instrumental in us finalizing phase 1 of the park improvements for Wanda and Geary Parks. So we were prepared to originally start construction in March of 2020, but of course we know what happened then, the pandemic, and due to the unforeseen impacts of it at the time, council decided to delay the project and suggested that reducing the project scope in order to reduce project costs. So as a result of the delay, we also had to seek grant extensions from our funders, which we were successful in receiving those extensions with the understanding that construction would start this spring. And those grantors include the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, also going by DNR, American in Bloom, American Academy of Dermatology, ATE, which was a tree grant. So we believe that we were able to successfully reduce the scope of the project without sacrificing the design intent. So tonight I will be presenting the updated project scope and estimated cost reductions. The project has been put out for bid already with the reduced scope, and we anticipate bringing a bid recommendation in front of council in late March or early April for approval. So I'm going to start with Wanda Park, and this was the original master design plan or scope for Wanda. You'll notice currently at Wanda Park, if you haven't been there, for the audience, there's no path. Everything you see there, pathway-wise, is not there. The only accessible paths along that park are sidewalks that run along East Hazelhurst Street as well as Wanda Street. So everything you see in between there are the new pathways that were planned. And so we, which I'll show you in the next slide, if I can get my mouse where I need it to be, so I can show you. So basically, the paths that run north and south from Hazelhurst, we reduced that to just one path, and it leads to the pavilion and the paths along from the pavilion down to Wanda Street and Fort here are not in this plan. And this is just to illustrate that. So again, it's reduced to one path, leading directly to all the new amenities, which would be the pavilion as well as the play structure, which is already in place, and a new formal entrance connecting the Marshall Street entrance from the neighborhood into the park. So all that will be part of this new scope. So what does that mean, right? So basically, in the original scope, we had a walkway of about 1,180 linear feet, and it's been reduced to 450 linear feet. The pavilion will remain the same. All the amenities will remain the same, which includes the benches, the drinking fountain with a water filter station. We already had that planned prior to COVID, but I'm glad we did because for sanitary reasons as well as environmental reasons. So there is a bottle filler there where you don't have to put your mouth on the actual fountain. Trash, recycle bins, bike racks, and grills will remain. The landscaping has been drastically reduced, but there will still be some landscaping. And additional reduction that you don't see, but make an impact in the budget is site demolition as well as mobilization, site prep, and like I mentioned earlier, reduction in the landscaping. So for Wanda Park, our financial contributors are Michigan Department of Natural Resources, American Bloom, and American Academy of Dermatology Association, which totals $74,000 in grant money. We estimate the reduced scope to be approximately $176,000, which brings the impact to the park bond after the grants are applied is only $102,000. So I will do a recap of Erie. So here's the original phase 1 plan, where we had a path leading from Lewiston Avenue, running south all the way down to Earl Boulevard. So this path here has been reduced and will stop approximately right around this area. The path will continue along Earl Boulevard and go up to the inline skating, and we did connect the restrooms, so there is a formal ADA path connecting the restrooms from the pathway, and extending the walking path all the way down to Pine Crest. And I'll show you in another slide where the skate park is an accessible walkway to the skate park. And also as part of the grant, we required to put in the fitness station, which would be located off of Central Street. So here's the reduced scope. Previous picture was a little prettier, that's why I want to go through. But all in all, I mentioned this is Lewiston Street, so there's no path here. And then you have the path making it accessible to the fitness station, the bar diamonds, and then along Earl Boulevard up to the inline skating rink and the restroom like I showed you earlier. And all the way down to the Pinecrest. And then here, you see that same path I mentioned going down to Pinecrest. And this is the skate park. So what we will not be doing in this scope is the path along the skate park here. So that is no longer planned in this space. But we did include as a bid alternate, which is if our budget still allows us to put this amenity in there, would be additional pathway to make the skate park more accessible and into the park here. And a formal entry pathway into Geary Park as a whole. So, in writing, what does that mean? Original scope, we had 1,780 linear feet of walking path, and now we have 1,420. The outdoor fitness station will remain the same. It will be the same amenities, however, they are reduced for here. So instead of 4 benches, there will be 1. Instead of 4 recycle and trash cans each, there will be 2. And the bike racks will be the same. The landscaping has been reduced as well. And bid alternates, although we kept some of them, not all of them, in the original scope, the walkway extension and skate park connection to Pinecrest, the entire area that I showed you earlier, was 1,315 linear feet, and we reduced that to 450 linear feet in the small park entrance pathway to the skate park. We will not be including a bid alternate for the basketball court in the new scope. And then additional reductions, again, site demo, mobilization, site prep, and of course, some reduction in landscaping. So our financial contributors for Geary, again, AGNR and American Bloom, and then we also have the ETE tree grant. So the cost estimate for the project with the reduced scope for Geary is $210,000, with grant funding totaling $109,000. So the total impact to our park bond once the grants are applied is only $100,000. And this is just the side-by-side of both projects. Again, Wanda Park at the end of the day would be a $102,000 project, and Geary Park would be a $101,000 project. And we will be making strides to make both parks accessible, way more accessible than what they are now, and connecting amenities to the parks and to our neighborhoods, which is one of Council's strategic priorities for this year. So what does our project time look like from here? So as I mentioned, we did put the project out to bid. So if anybody's interested, it's on BidNet right now or written. We plan to bring a bid recommendation before council, either the last council meeting in March, which is the 22nd, or the first council meeting in April, and that is a typo. I know there's not a meeting on the 7th, but it will be the first meeting in April if we aren't able to make the March meeting. And then construction should start late April. And then also with the MDNR grant, as I mentioned, we requested grant extensions. We've already received 2 grant extensions from MDNR. We only do them in about 6-month increments. So we, in May, plan to submit for an additional extension to take us through construction. We spoke to our grant manager about this, and it shouldn't be any issue as long as we show that we've started the project and we make strides to completion. And then in September, our plan is to have both projects complete and then host the ribbon ceremony. And that's pretty much it where we are and where we plan to go in the next few weeks and throughout the summer.
Thank you for your presentation, and I wanted to say thank you for your diligence and hard work on this. There's nothing I think all of council back in March, our new members, you only had 2.5 months under your belt. We're very disappointed that we had to take this off the table of doing because of the pandemic and the uncertainty of where the pandemic was going to hit the city's budget and the impact. So I really wanted to say thank you for reaching back out to all of the grantors or the grantors and making sure that we could continue some sort of a project to address these parks. And I do want to say that back in March 2020, we had three funding streams to pay for these park improvements, and that was the grants, the park fund money, and we were supplementing the projects with general fund dollars. The difference here is we only have two funding streams, which is grants and park fund money. So we've taken some stressors off of our general fund balance in order to make these projects work and not lose and leave any money on the table by having these grants go away and we don't leverage the money at all in our favor. So I just wanted to say, Lorraine and your team, thank you. I'm going to open it now to questions to council. Any questions from council at this time?
I have a question that I actually want to precede by some comments. Number one, thank you, Mayor, for the reminder about why we were seeking to reduce cost on this. I remember agonizing over sort of knowing that our parks were going to play a much bigger role in our lives as a result of the pandemic, but also knowing that we needed to be fiscally careful, given the uncertainty for the future. So thanks for that reminder. Thank you to Marina and your team for how much work you've done on this. And to your team in general, you've done a lot of hard work over last year, and we really appreciate it. So here comes the question. Can you talk a little bit, or if there's another staff person talk a little bit about sort of the role of climate resiliency in any of this planning? I would imagine it would factor in some of the landscaping, but could you talk about that a little bit, if it plays in or how it plays in?
Yeah, so especially as we think of the grants that we receive with the American Indian and we'll be using natural plants, native planting, for our landscaping. We have the bioswale already at Geary Park and the skate park, so we won't have any bioswale. It's all natural landscaping in the project. Native, I can't say natural, native.
And it's my understanding that reduces the need for additional watering and so forth. And then are there also sort of large tree plantings that will expect for long-term shade and benefits?
Yes, you are exactly right. So we do have large trees. I don't want to say size, but I want to say it's 8 feet, but I could be wrong on that. But we do have several large trees that will be planted throughout the park as well to provide immediate shade. There will be some newer trees and some mature trees as well.
Great. Thank you. That's it for me.
And then we also, as part of this grant, for Geary Park, in the reservoirs, we will be installing a water meter.
Thank you.
Through the chair, this is Councilman Polika. So I concur with the sentiments that have been shared about all the hard work you've done in putting this updated plan together. Clarification. So you mentioned a reduction in scope, but this is really just for these particular phases. The entire project hasn't been reduced. The plan is still to go forward with the plans as they were presented. It's just we're either going to have to increase the number of releases, or we're going to have to add more to the next phase. Is that correct?
Yes, you are correct. Especially for Geary, the plan hasn't changed. It's just been the phase has been reduced. There have been just some minor changes, so it looks aesthetically pleasing, because we don't know if and when we're going to get additional funding for those other phases, so we don't want to cut it at a curve and it just looks out of place, the walkway doesn't begin correctly, but you're absolutely right. And with us having the larger plan, it puts us in a good position to apply for additional grants to phase out those additional project phases.
Okay. Yeah, because like with Wanda, I'd really like to see that path continue from Wanda, the road, into the play area, as well as the volleyball court eventually added. So
Yeah.
thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Many sacrifices had to be made, and we're still making them because we're still in the pandemic. And some of these decisions council had to make have certainly been disappointing for me, and I think for everybody else too. But we're doing the best that we can with the avenues that we feel like keep us financially safe. All right. Seeing no other questions from council, we're going to move on to the next presentation. And that is 5C, and that is the City of Ferndale Lead Service Line Replacement Policy Overview. And I believe Dan Atastic, our Deputy DPW Director, is going to introduce this agenda item. Welcome, Dan.
In just a moment, Mayor, just promoted it.
Good evening tonight, Mayor and Council. Can everyone hear me fine?
Yes.
Perfect. So let me get to screen share so I can throw this presentation up. Can everyone see my screen all right? Okay, perfect. So tonight we're going to be talking about our lead service line replacement and verification policy and what that's going to look like as far as this program goes beginning here in 2021. So quick overview, I know we haven't talked about this very much this year, so just to remind everyone. The state of Michigan updated their lead and copper rule in 2018. So part of that update was requiring additional water sample testing, which the city of Ferndale conducted in 2019 and in 2020. And because we had a lead action level exceedance, that's actually going to expand our testing protocols for calendar year 2021. In addition to, we are required to do identification of our water service line material across the entire community, and we need to get that done by 2025. And luckily for us, we got a jump start on that, and we began that pretty heavy-handed in 2020 with our water meter replacement program. So because we had a lead action level exceedance, as a community and a water supply, we are required to increase the number of lead service lines that we replace per year on average at 7% because of that exceedance. And that starts in calendar year 2021. If we didn't have the lead action level exceedance, we would be required to replace that an average of 5% per year. So while it's not much, it does require us to replace a few extra service lines per year, which we are set up to do so. So this is a quick overview, just to or to let folks know what that service line is. What is your water service line? So the water service line is the water line that runs from the city's water main into your home. So looking at this diagram, highlighted in blue is typically the boundary of the public side of the water service line, and that goes from the water main to what we call the curb stop. For those that aren't familiar with it, the curb stop is the valve that is typically located right around the sidewalk line, typically in your front yard, and that's where the city has the ability to turn your water on and turn your water off. So say you need to get a plumbing repair or something like that, that's where we can shut the water off. And then it extends all the way to the actual water meter itself, which in the state of Michigan, because we have the oh-so lovely winters that we have in frost, the water meters are located on the interior of the home. So if you have a basement, it's typically located in the basement. If you're on a slab, a lot of times it's located maybe under the sink or in the utility room. And with this service line, any portion of that service line that does contain lead or galvanized pipe material that was previously connected to lead, we are required to replace. So anywhere from this, beautiful big blue dot of a water main to the water meter, any portion of that line is lead, the city will be replacing at our cost. So the method behind this to lead service line replacement. So one of the big questions that's been since this topic came up is how the city is going to determine our lead service line replacement schedule. Well, that's going to be a few factors that will come into play with that. One, it's going to take a look at our road improvement projects that we have over the coming years, because when we do service line replacements that require us to go all the way to the water main, we are going to have to cut open the road. So it allows us to save some dollars in the long term by looking at what road improvements that we're going to have going on, and then our water main improvements. So when we're doing water main improvements and we come across lead service lines, we'll be replacing the entire service line or a portion of that service line that does contain lead. Additionally, we'll be looking at our 5-year capital improvement plan, where we are looking at what we budgeted per year for service line replacements that fit within the budget. We're going to look at emergency situations where service line breaks, is damaged, something like that. In addition to what other determinations are going to allow us to meet our state mandated requirements for lead service line replacement. So like I stated earlier, we're required to replace 7% of our service lines per year. So we need to make sure that we meet that mark. And then what we're going to be doing while we look at this is we're going to guide as best we can with what we know. So we're making smart decisions throughout this program because we are spending a lot of money and we want to make sure that we're the most efficient and effective as possible. So we're going to be looking at the information that we gather during our water meter replacement program. We're going to be looking at property records. And when I say property records, what we're looking at is build year. What year was this home built? Because that helps determine, lead was popular during this time period. Lead was outlawed during this time period. In addition to, while we work through this, we're going to continue on the verification process of everything. So as we complete our verification inventory of what our service line material makeup is, that's going to help better guide us through our replacement program. So when it comes to actual replacements itself, one of the things that you'll see later on the agenda tonight is a tentative contract award for actual service line replacements and verification. So that first round of service line replacements that will be conducted in calendar year 2021, those individuals that will get their service line replaced or possibly replaced, because we still have to do further verification, they're going to receive an initial mail notice like you would if your street has been resurfaced in the past few years or a water main project has gone on, a general construction notice. After that, you're going to get a follow-up mailing where it's, hey, we're planning to replace service lines on your block during this time period, in addition to an actual access agreement itself. And we're going to shoot for 45 days prior to construction to get this out. Now, for those that are going to get their service lines replaced further on in the year, you're not going to see a notice from us for a while. those that are up front in our replacement schedule, you're going to see our initial construction mailer, and then you're going to see shortly after that second mailing where we want to schedule your service line replacement. And then we haven't heard anything back from the property owner, we're going to follow up 15 days prior to construction to try and get that access agreement signed, the notice of construction, scheduling. When it comes to the verification side of things, since that is a much less intrusive portion of the process where we're excavating down where the curb stop is in that diagram that was showed earlier, we're going to be a 5-day notice so we can make sure that cars aren't parking away or anything like that. And overall, the 2021 lead service line replacement and verification program, it's going to span from April through December. This is going to be something that is just ongoing until we get all our service lines replaced. So, 2021 is the start year. If we're able to go heavy-handed at it, this is a decade-plus long program that will be going on throughout the city of Ferndale. One aspect of this service line replacement program that references the diagram that was showed earlier is an access agreement. And that is because the city doesn't own the entire water service line like we do our water mains. So when it comes to your water service line, there's a portion of the water service line that is public property, the city property, and there's another portion of the water service line that starts at the curb stop and goes to the water meter. That is private property. So, to perform the work that we need to do to replace lead service lines, the city and the property owner need to enter into an agreement. Now, this access agreement allows the city to perform work within the easement of the water service line, so we can replace that. It grants the city access to get inside the property because we do need to do things as part of this project and replace the interior portion of your water service line, which is, like I said, either located in the basement, your utility room, or possibly under the sink. We need to have this access agreement signed prior to us completing that work, and we'll be working diligently to get that signed, work with the property owner, so they have a good understanding of what's going on between the city, the contractor, and the property owner themselves. This is really one of the most important things that we need to obtain in order to complete that water service line replacement. Because, like I said earlier, we do not own the easement with your water service lines on your property. So timelines. Now, this is going to be a fun year for service line verifications because you don't know what you don't know. And in this case, there are properties that we don't fully understand the service line makeup of that property. And since we're so early on in the replacements, and like I said earlier, the state requires us to finish our verification process by 2025, 4 years down the road from now. So some properties are going to require verification prior to us getting that service line replaced. So we're going to have crews up ahead of the actual replacement crews doing verifications so that we actually know that we need to do a full service line replacement at this property, or we only have to do a partial service line replacement at this property. And then during that time, we're going to be working to obtain access agreements in advance to commence all this work that we have going on. And like I said, those access agreements are going to be sent out 45 days earlier, or at least 45 days or earlier in advance to the property owner, so we can schedule everything as far out as possible. Because just like the property owner is going to want to know, hey, City of Ferndale is going to come to my property on June 1st and complete this service line replacement, our contractor would like to know that, hey, on June 1st, I need to be at this property to complete this service line verification or replacement, so we can best plan. So once we get that service line or that access agreement signed, we're going to be scheduling a date and time to replace that service line. Our goal is that we're scheduling this replacement a month in advance so we can best plan. Now, let's say we have to replace your entire service line from the water main all the way up to your water main. You know, that's going to take a few hours to complete. And during that time, that property owner is going to be out of water service. They're not going to have access to water or anything like that. And we're going to do our best to get that process completed as fast as we possibly can. And then, you know, another big question that always comes with the work that we do is restoration. You know, we're going to be excavating a portion of the front yard. We're going to be doing work, a little bit of work in the basement of these properties. We're going to be doing work in the street, in some instances, right? And we're going to do that restoration work as quick as possible once that service line replacement is completed. And that will follow up once we're done, as far as lawn restoration goes and all that good stuff. So right now you're looking at tentative replacement schedule. Now, this schedule right here is the blocks that we'll be focusing on this year. Now, this is tentative, so please keep in mind that this is tentative and subject to a little bit of change. We have not completed a service line replacement program yet in the city of Ferndale. This is our first year, and it will be a little bit of learning for us as we work through everything. But you know, you got a group 1, 2, 3, and 4, April to June, June to August, August to November, November to January. And these are the blocks that we're going to be focusing on for our service line replacements this year. Now, you may see, okay, group 1 on Albany between Pinecrest and Republic. So you may live on this block, but there's a chance that you don't have a lead service line. We don't have to do any replacement. But there's a chance also that you have a lead service line and we'll be doing a replacement. And that's one of the things that I talked about earlier is the verification side of things and us needing to get out ahead of that verification. So one important thing to keep in mind is even though you see your street on this list, we may not be coming and having to, disturb your day to replace your service line because we don't have to replace your service line. But this is our tentative schedule that we're going to be shooting for. Not only does this schedule allow us to replace our 7% requirement that we're required by the state to do, but it also bakes in some wiggle room to allow us to meet that 7% requirement and then also do some additional to that. Now, give me 1 sec. I want to share a map here with you all. Let me find where I have this. Hang on. Where is Google Chrome? One moment. I'll get to that at the very end of it. So just so we can leave that up while we're having a conversation. So our contractor. Now, the city received and reviewed bids for lead service line replacement and verification project. The contractor that submitted the low bid was Gustav Son, HDD LLC. Now, they won the low bid for service line replacements and the verifications. So we went through the bid review process. The contractor did receive positive reviews on the work that the contractor has done in other communities, similar work to what we're doing, service line replacements and verifications. So those positive reviews are always a good sign. So one of the things that council will be doing later on during the agenda is we'll be having a conversation on a tentative bid award. So what does that mean? Since this is a little bit different than what we normally do for our bid projects. Now we are we're not the final say in all this because we are going through a loan process with the state of Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. Okay, and because of that, after we do our tentative contract award later on in this council agenda, we have to submit all of our documentation to Eagle. And they will do a final review, and then they will give us an order of approval, which has a tentative date of February 26th in order to do so. And at that time, that is when we will actually get the process in motion, get a drawdown on the actual loan itself, and have the funds available to start work during this process. And let me find my map. Can you see my screen right now?
You'll have to unshare and then reshare the map. There you go.
All right. So here highlighted, the streets that are highlighted in blue are the streets that we will be focusing on for the 2021 lead service line replacements throughout the city of Ferndale. And one of the things that we really wanted to focus on as staff is making sure that we're spreading the love throughout the entire community. We're not just focusing on one quadrant of the city, but we're doing these service line replacements throughout the city of Ferndale. And our infrastructure projects are really helping drive our replacement schedule. So what you'll see here is the 2021 projects, and then you'll see our 2022 proposed lead service line replacement projects. Now, keep in mind that that is proposed and possibly subject to some change. But we're going to do our best to stick to that schedule of what you see here as far as 2021, 2022, and those streets going forward for service line replacements. Now, the city has worked on, over the past few months, on fine crafting a replacement policy that is included on as an attachment to this agenda item. In addition to the actual language and the access agreement itself that will be used between the city and the property owner that needs to get signed off on to actually do that replacement. And that is also included on this agenda item for those that want to view, take a look at it, maybe have an understanding of what they may need to sign in the future. So with that, I will open that up to comments and questions from council.
Thanks, Dan, for the overview.
And if you could, real quick, unshare that and then reshare just the home page, or else we're going to see all your emails.
Is that better? Didn't do it.
I think that's better. Thank you.
All right, are there questions from council at this time?
Yes, you're the mayor.
Yep, go ahead.
So I have a few questions. What if the city cannot get a hold of the property owner before the construction starts on the street? A number of residents or a number of properties are rentals. A lot of times it's hard for our inspectors to get a hold of the property owners. So I can imagine that it's going to be difficult to get a hold of owners for this project as well. What happens in that case? You know, out of a street of 50 homes, 2 homeowners can't be reached, and the project's already starting. What's the game plan?
Good question there, Councilman. So we've had this conversation, and we have already spoke with Community and Economic Development Department that oversees our rental inspections. So one of the things that we'll be doing is we'll be pulling our property owner information from Community and Economic Development, so we can match up and have an understanding. Like, let's pick West Woodland, for example, that when we're looking at West Woodland, we have an understanding that 10 homes on West Woodland are rentals, and that we know that we need to directly target the property owner in that situation. So we will be directly reaching out to the property owner to get a phone number, get their mailing address, so we can send them over the notifications that we would send over to, like, let's say, the tenant, for example. Now, if we're not able to secure an assigned access agreement, we're not able to get a hold of the property owner whatsoever. One of the things that we're going to have to do is just keep moving on with the project, and we'll have to revisit at a later date. Just because, like, let's say, like you said, Greg, that we miss 2 properties. We're not able to get a hold of the property owner, the tenant's not responsive, or so on. We're going to keep moving forward, but we're going to have a note that says this property did not get the surface line replaced, and we need to revisit that at a later date. But because we are under time constraints when it comes to the number of service lines that we need to get replaced per year, we're going to keep the program moving forward and making note that we need to revisit certain addresses at a later date.
Okay, so my concern with something that you mentioned was we're going to move forward and we'll come back to that address at a later date. My concern is that now we've just increased the cost to the city to have to come back to that resident because the resident was negligent, unresponsive, and so the taxpayers, have to pay more as a whole to have this one resident or 2 residents on a street replaced 2 years down the road. The city shouldn't have to bear that cost. Is there a way that we can ensure that we'll do the work today, but if you're choosing to have it done at a later date, the property owner is going to have to pay some type of additional charge to have us come back and not force all of that cost on the city? And that may be a question for Dan, legal Dan.
Through the chair, I'll quarterback that. Yeah, your instinct is right, Greg. And we can raise the question with Dan, but the state provides pretty specific guidelines on performance and our requirements. Our easement agreements have pretty considerable restrictions on them too. So Dan and Tosik's point, if we're unable, through our best efforts to obtain that signature, we will have to essentially create a wait list and move on to the next property. Again, our bottom line from the cities, there's also an unidentified cost in not meeting Eagle's placement requirements, and we can't hold that hostage.
Understand. No, in no way am I thinking that if 2 houses on the street aren't able, don't respond, that we just hold up the whole street. Absolutely not. I'm completely supporting going forward with the project. I just don't think that 2 houses, that the rest of the city is held hostage financially in the future because 2 homeowners on the street decide that they're not willing to do it this year or next year or what have you. And this isn't a choice of, well, if I can't get it done this year, I'll just wait a couple of years and get it done. It's either you do it while it's on the street or you're going to pay a consequence. The other question that I have is, I guess, kind of similar, but what if a property owner doesn't want the work done on their property? They have decided that they don't want the city or the company that the city has contracted with to come on their property, and they have decided that they're going to do it themselves out of their own pocket because they don't for whatever reason, don't trust the city, don't trust the contract company, construction company. Is there anything that we can protect ourselves so that they don't come back at a later date and say, oh, you forced me to do it on my own, and here's City of Ferndale, here's your bill, that I had to pay to have it done.
Through the chair, that's a great point. We will seek guidance from Eagle and consult with the city attorney as to whether a waiver would be required if we're unable to obtain a willing signature on an easement agreement.
Okay.
We'll look for Eagle's guidance on that as well.
Okay. This next one may also apply is what if during the work on the property, the owner says that they don't like what's happening, or they no longer trust the construction work that's being done on their property, and they're telling the contractor to stop the work. They don't want the company to finish the work. There's a huge hole in their front yard. What kind of protection is the city going to have over that if that happens? And does the homeowner have that ability to actually say to the construction company, stop, I don't want you going any further with the work? What happens at that point?
Through the chair, Dan, Chris, why don't you talk a little bit about the easement agreement? I believe once that easement agreement is signed, the city has an easement to perform that work. Is that true?
Well, the water line replacement agreement that's proposed would govern in that situation. The city's not going to be able to enter onto private property absent that agreement being entered by the property owner with the property owner. And there are consequences should the property owner not wish to execute the agreement with the city for whatever reason. And those potential outcomes include regulation that's already permitted under the city's code of ordinances. But the short answer to Councilman Halka's answer is the work will not happen absent the agreement being executed. Once it's executed, the city's going to perform the work. In the event that the property owner tries to revoke the permission, well, then the city's going to put it into a try and remediate the situation, but it's not going to simply pull up stakes and leave a hole in the ground. The city at that point would have an enforceable agreement which it would attempt to quickly resolve the issue in a going forward fashion, but would not simply vacate it upon the direction of a property owner after the executed agreement is reached.
Okay, that's the questions that I have. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you everyone for responding. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else from council who has questions?
I have a few through the chair. First of all, thank you for the presentation. This is information that I know a lot of folks in the community have been eagerly awaiting. And to that point, for anyone who's either, not watching now or watching later, when will the tentative schedule, either the map that we're looking at now or the sort of graph that we saw earlier, when and how will that be available to residents so that they can start sort of planning for the future?
Through the chair, I think as far as the map, typical to any other infrastructure road project, we wouldn't typically post a map, but that's subject to change because it is subject to change based on the 2022 bid cycle. Things happen, and so we would be hesitant on that. I'll let the DPW communications speak presenting the table. I don't see a problem with that for 2021 schedule for the time.
Okay.
Sorry,
go ahead.
I apologize. We plan on posting this information on the city's website, so those that are interested can go and take a look at what's going on as far as 2021 lead service line replacement program, what streets are tentative, and so on. And like Joe said, for the future stuff, because that is tentative and it's not fully set in stone, we don't like to fully advertise that because we could get into a situation where, it's almost like we're over-promising and underperforming, whereas that's not the case. Things change. Streets could get moved around during the resurfacing program and stuff like that. But the goal is to, prior to fully getting into the lead service line replacement and verification program, having some of this information available on the city's website.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Quickly, Councilwoman James, this is Kara. For those who don't know me, I'm the communications director. I just wanted to let everybody know that we will have the information, at least the preliminary information you're seeing tonight, and the supporting info up on the website as of tomorrow morning. And we'll have that linked right from the top of the homepage, so people won't have to go digging for it. It should be right there.
Perfect. Thank you. So if, I have another sort of timing question. So it's my understanding that under sort of the basic legislation that went through within the last couple of years, all communities who have lead service lines basically have 20 years to complete their replacement program at a rate of 5% per year. And I'm sure that most people who are paying attention have some understanding of why this came to be and where we're at. But my question is, since we had an exceedance and have been accelerated to 7%, is that 7%, is that for the duration of the project until it's completed, or is that for the first couple of years? I wasn't clear on that part.
So that 7% requirement is until we have back-to-back sampling periods that do not exceed the state's action level. So for example, for 2021, we have 2 testing periods. We have a testing period of January 21 until June of 21. And then we have a testing period of July 21 through December 21. During both of those testing periods, we need to test under the state's action level of 15 parts per billion. And if we do so, we should fall off that 7%. Now, that's a further conversation that needs to be had with Eagle as, let's say, in a perfect world, we come under our exceedances for testing period 1 and testing period 2. Then what happens? Now, this is still a newer regulation as far as the state is concerned. So they're still working through what do we do with communities that come off their action level exceedance. Does our replacement period change a little bit? What gets factored in? But that's a conversation that will be had with Eagle at that point. But if we were to exceed again, we would remain at the 7% level an additional year. Now, the key thing here is that the required replacement per year is an average. So with the 5% per year over 20 years, it's a 5% average per year. So in theory, one could replace 3% this year and 7% next year. The one thing that we will be doing as council voice their want to replace as much as we can per year is that we very well could replace 10% this year. because we are going very heavy-handed at the replacements. And even staff, we want to replace as many lead service lines as we can. So we could get into a situation where let's say in the first 5 years of the program, we replace just throwing a number out there, 40%. Then we smooth out the rest over the coming years. If that helps folks wrap their head around the complex issue of lead service line replacements.
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that, because I think there's certainly an appetite in the community for us to replace as quickly as we can, both fiscally and just as a logistical matter. But given that there are some households that, somebody's got to be first, somebody's got to be in the middle, somebody's got to be at the end. That's just an unfortunate reality. So for those who are later in this process, what are the ongoing notice requirements and mitigation programs? I mean, 2020 was a heck of a year, and I could imagine a scenario where there are some households that, despite getting something in the mail, despite a lot of publications and council meetings discussing this topic, people have been distracted and busy and overwhelmed. So what can we do to help remind people of this ongoing issue and direct them to water filtration resources and information?
Through the chair, I'd like to direct that to the communications director, Kara Sokol, to talk a little bit about the communications plan and the plan for maintaining the presence of content.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that. I will speak a little bit just on the communications plan this year for the homes that will be updated. And we've got already written and ready to go out a first mailing, as well as the second update mailing, as well as content that would go on door hangers. So a really robust presence of 1, 2, 3, and then potentially 4 and 5 with follow-up door hangers and actual visits to the home. Person-to-person communications about the issue and about how people are going to be impacted, about when they're going to be up in the rotation this year, about what they can expect, and so on. And then again, all of these will be made available on the website. But that is only for those who will be receiving updates or potential updates this year. For those who don't, we're going to continue our communications plan that we started last year and move through continued education process. One thing that is happening at Mayor and Council's direction is the return of a city newsletter. We anticipate that would be up and running by June. So that allows us to get information directly in the mail to all residents. And then in addition to that, we have a plan to ensure that the information on lead, on the status of where we are as a city, on where to find healthy filtration information, about how to ensure that you can have safe drinking water, is touched on social media, on cable, and on the website every month, all year long. So there's going to be a concerted effort. Every month has a different topic. It might be tied to another initiative, might be on its own, but we have it drafted out basically for the entire year. So we want to make sure that this stays front and center. As buildings begin to open up as well, we have information available at City Hall. We would ensure that information is available in print at the library, at any kind of community center presence. Those would all have been done already if this was a normal world we were living in right now and people were going places. But we'll keep on top of that and make sure that we have a public presence in print at places people are going.
And Sure. If I may add real quick too, while we do our verifications, if we come across a lead service line, we'll be notifying the property owner of that and the actions that they can take. In addition to, on your water bill, there is a section that talks about our lead action level exceedance, and that can help direct property owners, tenants to the city resources that we provide and the public education surrounding this topic also. Because we do still have water filters available for members of the public.
Great. Okay, my last question. Thank you for your patience. When someone lives on a block where, and this might be two questions actually, where lead service lines are being replaced, how long can people anticipate a water service disruption? Are we talking about hours, days? What's the disruption look like? And is it different if you have a lead service line versus being the next door neighbor who doesn't?
Good question. So let's say you're the neighbor with the lead service line, and we have to replace that lead service line. Best case scenario, you're out of water for a few hours while we run the new line, do a disconnect, and a reconnect. You're the neighbor next door that doesn't have the service line. You will not be out of water unless for some unforeseen circumstances that we have to shut the water main down, which is few and far between that would actually happen. So if you have to get your water service line replaced, anticipate being down for 3 to 4 hours. Now, in the event that, let's say, what can go wrong does go wrong, and we can't get that service line replaced for whatever it may be that day, we will be providing water so that property can, do their cooking, brush their teeth, drink some water, and things like that during that period. And that will be extremely few and far between, but as with any construction projects, if it can go wrong, it could go wrong, possibly will go wrong, and we'll be making sure that we address that as quickly as we possibly can, or authorize our contractor to work later than what is established here in the city of Ferndale by ordinance.
All right, thank you. I think that's all my questions.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And Mayor Pro Tem and Councilwoman Kulski?
Can jump in. Basically, almost all my questions have been answered already. But I do have one question about the hold harmless section within the access agreement. So let's say that we do the work and I don't know, maybe 24, 48, maybe even a month later. If that line somehow starts leaking in the house, if something goes wrong in the resident's house, can they come back to DPW and ask for somebody to fix it?
Through the chair, Dan, Chris, can you comment about the
Certainly, through the chair, the proposed a couple of obligations that the city will provide to the property owner. One of those is that there will be a warranty term within the agreement between the city and the actual contractor that undertakes the work and does the performance of the work. And that warranty will spell out a period of time in which the workmanship of the laborers is warranted, as well as the materials and components for a period of time. And so during that period of time of that would exist as an avenue for a property owner. But beyond that, the homeowner, as part of this agreement, is agreeing to hold harmless the city for any claims or liability as it relates to the particular work. So the remedy would be as it relates to the warranty and insurance provided by the contractor, but the agreement would be holding the city harmless from liability.
Okay. Do we have an idea of how long that warranty term is?
I don't yet. I have not seen the actual agreement with the contractor hasn't been entered into yet. So I can provide that information once the contract is negotiated.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Excellent. Really thorough, in-depth questions by everybody. This is a new thing for the city. A lot of cities around us are going through the same thing as well. We have some peer cities in which we can look at as City of Lansing and Flint. Have gone through this process, so lots of resources to help us, and I'm sure staff has already leveraged many of them. And so, Dan, I appreciate you and your team being so diligent going forward and making sure we comply with all of the Eagles regulations and that we're providing really great customer service and communications to our residents.
Mayor, I have a couple of follow-up questions. I apologize.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So something that Councilwoman James brought up triggered something for me, and that's, will we be providing homeowners like a day or so before their work being done a list of things that they should do, like stock up on water, make sure you do this, make sure you don't do that, turn off the hot water tank. I don't know, but those things, are we going to be providing them with at least an advance notice of things that they should be doing within their home?
Yeah, so this isn't going to be, think about, I have to get a new internet provider, and they come and install a new modem, and I just click a couple boxes online, and life is good. When a resident is scheduling their appointment and signing off on their access agreement, they're going to have the opportunity to speak with our project manager, and they're going to tell them what to expect during this process. The resident or the property owner is going to be able to ask questions as to what if this happens, then what occurs, and so on. So it's not going to be a super black and white process. They're going to have that opportunity to have conversations with the real person and not just press 1 for assistance type of deal. And the property owner is going to get to understand fully what to expect during this service line replacement. And they're going to hear it from our project manager. That'll be working for Hubble, Roth, and Clark, but be representing the city on this project. And if they want to, they'll be able to talk to a city representative, myself, Carlos Kennedy, our director of public works, or Dan Harper, our water supervisor. If they need more reassurance during this process, or just to talk through things a little bit more. But it's going to be we understand that we're possibly coming into your home. We're disrupting your water service and all that goes into this program. And we are fully aware that it may be very concerning to a property owner, the work that's going to go on. And that this is going to take something that is a personable interaction with a city representative or city staff that helps explain this to the property owner and walk them through it. And in addition to that, inspectors are going to be on site through the course of this process. So, our residents, our property owners aren't going to have to deal with the contractor themselves. They're going to be dealing with city staff, project manager through the course of this project. And those are the people that our residents are going to be able to rely on for some peace of mind through this program.
Okay. Well, and I appreciate you use that word peace of mind because that goes with my next question. This may be for Dan, Chris, and or Joe. Some of the construction workers are going to be entering homes, basements. Is there any chance that we can guarantee that those people entering homes have been fully vaccinated against COVID to give homeowners an extra level of security?
Through the chair, we can't guarantee that. I don't know that we can ask that question, but we can require them to submit to our COVID-19 contractor policy, which we've submitted and updated throughout the year. DPW does that on all contracts. So they are required to act within a code of conduct and expected behavior as it relates to COVID-19 to do business with Ferndale.
Okay.
We'd be happy to cite that in the agreement as well.
It'd be nice if everyone knew that people coming into their homes were already protected. I understand. You can't force someone to get a vaccine. So. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. All right. Seeing questions done with council, we are going to move on to call to audience. So we set aside 30 minutes for people to speak on a topic, including any agenda on the item, though I would make the kind request that those who are here to make comments about the public hearing on the conditional rezoning, which is next on the agenda, that you wait to make your comments then. And if we need more than 30 minutes, I will put an extended period at the end of our meeting for more public comment periods. And we ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes, and if you are nearing or go over your 3 minutes, I will gently interrupt you to let you know you've reached your limit so that you may wrap up your comments. And finally, I just want to say that we have a vision dedicated to inclusivity and a community that values diversity and respect, and we have an official commitment to anti-racism. So we have respectful and courteous behavior during our public meetings that support these values, and we allow neighbors across all spectrums of beliefs and viewpoints to share their thoughts and encourage that to come to council in a very supportive environment. So I do like to remind people that some of our audience members coming via Zoom or in person someday in the future may be attending their first public meeting and may feel uncomfortable speaking publicly, let alone doing it over Zoom. So we try to make that experience as most comfortable as possible. And of course, for productive conversation, comments should address issues and not people. And please address the city council and myself, your mayor, rather than staff. They take policy direction from the city council. So please do that. And I may ask the city manager to provide an answer or follow up with you after. So with that in mind, our assistant city manager, Kyle, is going to go through the hand raisers on the blue hand via Zoom, and then we will take calls. For those who are interested in making a comment via your phone. So Kyle, I'm going to turn it over to you and start going through the hand raisers for public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand at this time. Okay, our first one, it looks like Miss Evelyn Elster.
Hi, Evelyn. Welcome.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. You can hear me?
Yep.
I was going to light you up, but I'm not going to. The lead line replacement is concerning me. I do not want my lead line. I would much rather have it replaced, and I appreciate the fact that there is a policy to do that. Being as the city is awarding the lead line replacement to a limited liability company while intending to force homeowners to sign a hold harmless contract with the city under a threat of water shutoff to those same homeowners, according to your policy documents, that really sends up a red flag for me. Granted, work ethic is not what it used to be. I understand that, and I'm trying to deal with it. But that is problematic. Your attorney, the city attorney, said that there would be a warranty, but nobody's given any details. I don't know, it's scary. I would also like to know if we're going to have enough time to move landscaping out of the way and how much space they're going to require, because it's going to be a major project for us. So the city is, I'll leave the rest for another time. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe, I think Evelyn did ask, Ms. Elster did ask a good question about landscaping, and I know it's in the agreement for the city to fix anything that's messed up, but she brings a point of the homeowner saving anything that might need to be relocated in order to survive and be replanted. So if that's something your team can take in consideration, that would be great.
Absolutely. It's part of our procedure and notification.
Okay, great. All right, Kyle.
Thank you, Mayor. While we wait for folks to raise their hand, we have one call-in listener. That is a 904 area code with the last four 0906. If you would like to speak, now is your opportunity. You can unmute. Okay, and we have one other hand raiser. It is Heather Hine.
Hi, Heather, welcome.
Hi, guys. Thank you. I didn't know, I have an item on the agenda a little bit later this evening. I believe it's regular agenda item 9B, and I wasn't sure, I apologize if I should speak a little bit about that now or wait until then.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I would wait to address all of your comments at that time, because you're one of the key representatives that is part of that presentation.
No problem. Thank you so much.
No, but thank you for asking.
And just giving another moment or so for any folks that are looking for their raise hand button, and it should be at the bottom of your screen. And if you'd like to speak, go ahead and raise your hand. Otherwise, I see no other interested attendees, Mayor.
I did the Zoom boo-boo of speaking while on mute. Thank you, everybody, for your comments, and we are now going to move on to the public hearing. Our public hearing is 7A, consideration of the conditional rezoning of 1701 Mapledale. And we do have some processes to follow as part of a public hearing. The first step is going to be a city staff overview or presentation about this item. I will then move into step 2, which is to open it for public comment so that council can hear your questions. And then I will close public comment and move on to questions from city council, who will be able to follow up from what they've heard and do an additional exploration of questions with staff. And then we will move into step 4, which is move into a motion and debate the item and move into approval or denial. With that, I'm going to hand it over to, I believe, the CED team. Is that Jordan or Justin? Justin, is that you?
That's actually going to be Aaron, who will be chiming in here shortly.
Excellent. Okay.
Yep, just a moment, Mayor. I'm promoting her. That's dangerous, promoting staff left and right.
Good evening.
Good morning, Erin. Or good morning. Oh my God, good evening.
This is Erin Quattal, the Environmental Sustainability Planner for the city. My pronouns are she and her. And I will be giving a brief overview of the conditional rezoning that is presented in front of you this evening. It is for 1701 Mapledale, located between Hilton and Chester Avenue. The applicant is proposing to purchase the 1,200 square foot or 12,000 square foot former auto shop and educational facility at Hazel Park Schools, and to use it as a privately run business performing similar activities to what was there previously, including major and minor vehicle repair and other modifications such as that. It is currently zoned R1 single family residential, and the applicant is requesting that the parcel be conditionally rezoned to M1 light industrial to better suit the current and future use of this location. The M1 district permits the vehicle repair, major and minor facility use, and the future land use map, or the future land use map designates this site as traditional residential. However, due to the way that it's been used and proximity to the school and the mixed-use corridor that we're requesting review by council this evening for this conditional rezoning. It was previously presented to Planning Commission earlier this year on January 6th and was recommended for review and approval by City Council. In conditional rezonings, it is just as it sounds, conditional. It's based on set parameters that are set forth in a legal document called a conditional rezoning agreement that is between the applicant and the city, and that has been reviewed by the city attorney as well as the site plan reviewed by our city engineer, police, and fire departments for technical compliance with our city ordinances. In your packet, you'll see the complete site plan review and conditional rezoning review that was presented to Planning Commission previously. And with that, it's very, very brief. It's not a lot is changing on site. There's no expansion or anything like that. And the applicant's representative, Jeff Shorter, is actually available as well to answer any questions. And I welcome them to give any additional information about this conditional rezoning request at this time.
Thank you. This is Jeffrey Schroeder on behalf of the applicant. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome, Jeffrey. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the Community and Economic Development team. They are very, very good at customer service. I've learned that over the past few months, and certainly made the process a lot easier. And I'm here just to respectfully request approval very briefly. The actual use isn't going to change. It is a school mechanic shop. The proposed use is a privately owned mechanic shop, which actually does service the school district vehicles. And the underlying zoning, as a result of it being school district property, there is an agreement that is being proposed, a conditional rezoning agreement that was reviewed by the city attorney. We are in agreement with all 8 conditions of approval. We went through that at the Planning Commission public hearing and review. An issue came up at the Planning Commission about whether or not the city would have a right of first refusal to purchase this property. Apparently there was some other issue. The research by the school district has indicated that no, there is no right of first refusal for the city on this property. The benefits to the city will include some improvements to the property. This is tax neutral property that will be put on the tax rolls if this is approved. Will also benefit the school district as it is identified this as surplus property, and again, that will be a benefit to the school district. So that's a brief overview, and I'll be here to answer any questions. And again, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Jeffrey. So I just had a question of clarification. So this is just moving from public property to private property, or is it public property moving to private use?
It is currently owned by Hazel Park Schools. So it's Hazel Park school property and is being potentially going through the sale process if this is approved to a private entity, which is currently utilizing the space right now, but is going to be a private use.
Okay. So this is some technicalities based off of this change. So now I'm going to open it up to public comment. And again, ask you to those who are interested in making comment to keep your comments to 3 minutes. And Kyle, I'll let you coordinate that process.
Thank you, Mayor. So if anybody would like to speak, please raise your hand at this time. And if I may, I would just like to add this opportunity is another result of our continuing relationship with Hazel Park Schools. The superintendent reached out to our staff with the idea to move this property to private use, make a little bit of money for the school district for a building that they don't really utilize or need, and put another business in the community.
Thank you, Kyle.
And I see no hands up during my announcement there.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle. And seeing no hand raisers for public comment, I am going to close public comment at this time and move on to City Council questions for fact finding.
If I may, Mayor, I would like to make a clarification. This came up actually in the planning. All of the documentation references an address of 1701. Full address of the building, I believe, is 1600.
Can that be verified as we go through questions from council? Because if it's not 1701, we should not be approving that address.
Yeah, so Jeff can provide more information about this as well, but there was a discrepancy there because it was kind of a toss-up on what address we should be using, the school address or the separate address of the property and parcel, and it was determined that we should be using the 1701 address. But if there is something that I'm not aware of based on that, I guess we should probably figure that out right now.
Yeah, well, we just need to make sure that, you know, we're not selling the school. I don't think they would like that.
Yeah.
If I may, this is Jeff Schroeder. The key component is that we have the parcel ID number identified in our conditional rezoning agreement and all of our documents. And so the parcel ID is not in question. There was an issue with the address when I did appear in person at City Hall to file the application. The particular address the school district had been using wasn't in the system. After further review, it was determined we could use the address 1701 Mapledale, but ultimately, legally, we have the correct parcel ID number.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to other council members who have questions of fact at this point.
So I have a, oh, go ahead.
If I may, through the chair, thanks for clarifying that this was a site that was already used for the purpose in which it's intended. It's just turning into something more of a private owned business, really. My question is, with any business that surrounds residential, my question is that I see there's so many spots that will be utilized for these vehicles, and I know that when you have a business such as this that, you know, repairs cars, sometimes it can be quite a few repairs. So what I would like to know is that, is there a will there be, I want to make sure that there is no issue regarding a lot of extra work kind of being spilled out into the residential where it will cause some issues with the individuals who are residing there. Work can grow. business can grow. So I just want to know, is there a plan for that? Because we've had issues with businesses similar to this, utilizing more space than allotted.
Certainly, I can respond to that. First of all, we did submit as part of the rezoning, sort of a traffic estimate of 20 visits per day of vehicles. The work is going to be done inside. The customers, one of which is a school district, will be bringing their vehicles during regular business hours. There is equipment inside that is being purchased as part of this. And certainly if there are any nuisances to the neighborhood, my client is committed to resolving those very quickly. He does not want any problem with the surrounding residential area. There is a buffer on site. So the best I can tell you is he currently is operating a similar business in Hazel Park and hasn't had any issues and is close to residential at that property. I've been to the location on John R. I think you're going to find a similar experience here where there will not be, I think the biggest concern would be noise. We did address at the last meeting, there's going to be no auto body repair, none of that type of work going on. So I think we're going to minimize the impact on the neighborhood. And certainly if there's a problem, my client is a very responsible business operator and will resolve the issue immediately if there are problems with either the neighbors or the city.
Thank you. We'll go next to Councilwoman James, who was next in line.
Sure. My first question is more of a process question, not so much about the property itself. But since this was a public hearing, I'd just like to confirm how notification is made to neighbors, how wide of a swath notification goes to. I'm not sure who speaks to that.
Sure. Yeah, so just like every public hearing notice, we submitted this like a letter indicating the meeting time and where you can find the information, my contact information and so forth prior to the Planning Commission meeting. And at that time, I did receive several responses from residents around the area. I talked to a lot of different people. Mostly they were concerned about some of the things that are being raised at this public hearing as well. Similarly, we talked about some of these issues at the Planning Commission meeting. And we typically do a radius of about 500 around the site location. And so just as we did that same notice for the public hearing for Planning Commission, we did the same for City Council. And the requirement for that is at least 15 days prior to a public hearing. It's also posted outside of City Hall. And we have all the information regarding this as part of the agenda that we have noticed online from the Planning Commission meeting as well as the City Council meeting. And as I mentioned, my contact information is there as well, so people can reach out to me if they have any questions during the process.
And that notification, does that go to only to residential neighbors, or does it also go to the commercial neighbors? I see there are sort of both.
Yep, it goes to everyone. So what we do when we do our labels is we do the owner and the occupants of every single location around the subject site.
Okay. And I just have one tiny follow-up question about the property itself. Certainly the address was a little bit confusing when I first looked it up, but it looks to me, just for confirmation, that it's not only sort of there's a building that was the technology center for the school that's sort of, I don't know, along the driveway toward the school, for lack of a better term. And then there's like a gated area adjacent that is also part of the subject property. Is that correct?
Yes. So the property includes the building, and it also includes the parking lot just to the east of the building. Mm-hmm. And if you notice, there is a drive along Maple Dale, and then it looks like it kind of enters into the school property. the applicant had informed us about this is that they would be seeking an easement so that they could still continue to access that parking lot to the east of their property.
Okay. I don't really have any other questions. Thank you.
Who else from council has questions at this time? Okay, seeing none, we need a motion from City Council to go into discussion.
I have a quick question about the motion. Being that the address number is kind of in question, should we include in the motion?
I think Aaron cleared up that matter that the address was not in question and that it is 1701 Mapledale. That is what I heard.
Okay.
If I could, through the chair, Aaron, does the proposed motion reference the parcel ID number? Or does it, the parcel ID is reflected in the conditional rezoning agreement, but I don't have the motion in front of me.
Yeah, I think you're correct. I think it is in the agreement, but it doesn't appear to be in the motion. But I can look up that number if we would like to include it in the motion.
I have the number. I actually looked it up, and it is in the agreement because I wanted to see what address was used in the agreement, and that's where I found the parcel number.
Through the chair, Councilman Polka, if you wanted to reference that parcel ID number for clarification, that would be fine if you wanted to make that as part of the motion.
Okay. So I move to, in the matter of 1701 Mapledale, part of parcel number 25-26-111-038 section. The City Council approved the conditional rezoning from R1 single family residential to M1 light industrial with the following findings and subject of the following conditions after a public hearing was held and set and published on this date. Again, the findings and conditions is listed in the packet.
Support.
All right, moved by Councilman Polka, supported by Councilwoman James. Is there further discussion by council? All right, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May?
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski?
Yes.
Councilmember Polka?
Yes.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
And Mayor Piana?
Yes. All right, that concludes the public hearing. Now we're moving on to the consent agenda, and I'm going to read every item in the consent agenda, and council will make a determination on what they would like to do. 8A, approval of the special and regular meeting minutes of January 25, 2021, as submitted by the city clerk. 8B, approval of the 3-year agreement extension with Republic Parking LLC, as submitted by the city manager. 8C, approval of the request to backfill one police officer position left open due to the recent retirement of a police officer, as submitted by the Human Resources Director. 8D, approval of the 3-month extension of the conditional medical marijuana provisioning center permit for Nature's Remedy, as submitted by the planning manager. 8E, approval of the 3-month extension of the conditional medical marijuana provisioning center permit for 642 East 9 Mile Road, which is Pure Green, as submitted by the planning manager. 8F, approval and execution of the 2021 CN Eco Connections from the Ground Up Grant Agreement with America in Bloom to provide 1-to-1 match of $25,000 to be used for park improvement efforts through the Martin Road Beautification Project, and approval for the mayor to sign the agreement as submitted by the Parks and Recreation Director. 8G, consideration of a bond ordinance to provide for the construction, installation, furnishing, and equipment for improvements to the water supply system of the city of Ferndale. 8H, approval of the request to create and fill the Zero Waste Program Coordinator position as proposed by the Human Resources Director. 8I, Approval to adopt resolution of condolence for former Ferndale City Clerk Valerie Kitchen as submitted by the City Clerk. 8J, approval of the request to create and fulfill the retirement and HR specialist position as proposed by Human Resources Director. 8K, approval to receive FEMA grant for reimbursements of COVID-19 related expenditures in the amount of $26,019.62. And 8L, approval of the approval of the bills and payrolls as submitted by the City Manager's Office and subject to review by the Council Finance Committee. What is the pleasure of council tonight?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved by Councilwoman Mikulski and supported by Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Mikulski?
Yes.
Councilmember Polika?
Yes. Yes.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May?
Yes.
And Mayor Piana?
Yes. And that concludes the consent agenda items. And now we're moving on to the regular agenda. And first up is 9A, consideration of drinking water revolving loan fund contract award. And you're back on air, Dan Atostic.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. So tonight, for this item, we are considering a tentative contract award to Gustafsson for the City of Ferndale's lead service line replacement and verification program. So what, like we've been talking about for this past year, is going through this drinking water revolving loan fund process. So we're finally getting to the tail end of this. Now, many of you may recall we started this process in June of 2020. So where we're at right now in this project is the tentative contract award. So at the end of December, we put out a bid for service line replacements and verifications. Under the process followed that we've been following through State of Michigan's Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy's drinking water revolving loan process. So a part of that is we applied for a $10 million loan for this work. Through the bid process, we received bids from 5 bidders for actual replacements themselves, and then 1 contractor that just bid solely on the verification portion of things. When it came down to the bid review, Gustafsson, like I spoke about earlier in the presentation of our lead service line replacement and verification policy, was the low bidder on this project. And this is a little bit different than most construction projects that come forth to council, because the way this project was structured is that it was structured in 2 divisions. So one portion of this project was the service line replacements themselves. And then the second portion of this project was the verifications. So what that did was it gave us some flexibility, because if one bidder was low on the replacement side of things and a completely separate bidder was low bid on the verifications, it would have allowed us the ability to award 2 different contractors for the work. In this case, now, Gustafsson was the low bid on the replacements at $4.9 million and the verifications at just over $700,000. Now, you know, one could think, well, this was a $10 million loan. Well, within that, there's roughly $2.7 million that is add needed materials. So that's lawn restoration, concrete replacement, road restoration, and things of that nature. So in all, Gustafsson was the low bid at $8.3 million for our project plan that we put together for lead service line replacements and verifications. So what this $8.3 million gets us roughly is approximately 1,200 service lines replaced for this program. Now, the thing to keep in mind with this is council at this point is doing a tentative contract award resolution. So what that means is we're tentatively awarding this contract to Gustafsson because what we have to do at this point is if council so chooses to approve this agenda item, that, our approval resolution at that point then gets submitted to Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy for approval as part of what the state of Michigan calls our Part 3 application in this process, which is then all of our bid documents are vetted, all the contractors and their documents that they submitted as part of the bid are submitted to vet everything. So what we're doing tonight is saying Gustafsson was our low bid. Staff is recommending Gustafsson receive the tentative contract award for this work. And as I stated earlier in tonight's presentation, we did follow up on references. They received positive references for this work that they would be doing for the city of Ferndale. And one question council may have is, okay, so we applied for a $10 million loan from the state of Michigan. This bid came in at $8.3 million. What happens to the additional $1.7 million? Are we on the hook for that? Can that go towards additional work that can be done and so on? Well, yes, we can decide to do additional lead service line replacements under this loan from the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund and continue on this project. Or we can decide not to draw down the full $10 million on this loan. Or let's say, for example, the state comes out with new guidance in terms of what is required as part of the verification process. So what we can do is we can decide to redirect verification funds that were originally programmed towards actual service lines themselves. And one of the other things that we can do with this loan funding is, which we talked about at last council meeting with the project management proposal from Hubble, Roth, and Clark, is we can pay for that project management portion of things with this loan fund. But for the talking points for tonight's agenda item, what this is mainly concerned with is the contract award to Gustafsson for the actual work to be done in terms of lead service line replacements and verifications. So after bid review, follow up with references, it is staff's recommendation that we tentatively award Gustafsson with the bid for lead service line replacements and verifications for the city of Ferndale. And one thing to keep in mind with this is that this isn't a one-year program. This loan is between now and 2024, in which that work can be completed. Now, let's say we're operating in a perfect construction world and we want to get 400 lead service lines replaced in the next 6 months, and we're able to do 600 lead service line replacements, we're going to keep going down that route and replace as many as we can with the contractor. So this is just another step in the process to final approval by Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy until we get to the part where they actually disperse us money to actually start doing this work. So that's the gist of this council item right here. And, you know, I'll leave that up to questions of council at this time.
Thank you for your update. We have quite a few things on approval and discussion tonight for the lead lines. We're following the timeline by the state in order to hit the milestones that we need to hit and replacing lead lines. And so are there any questions of fact on, are there any questions from council to staff about this bid and recommendation?
I could start. I'm still hung up on the warranty, and I just want some sort of assurance that if we're moving forward with this, if there wasn't a warranty in place or if there was an unacceptable warranty in place, we would be able to go with a different bidder or restart that process. Is that possible?
Through the chair, I'd like to take that opportunity to point out that the motion should be amended. This is a tentative agreement subject to negotiated terms between the city and the city's attorney who will be representing us in the coming weeks. The actual agreement language, once approved, and we can certainly brief you on that progress, Councilwoman, before the next council meeting, but we would be able to bring that for official approval at the next council meeting. Dan, would you have any?
And just to put a finer point on it, the engineering's letter has gone through the bids, and council's action really should be to accept the bid award, the low bid award for construction to Gustafson HDD LCC, but it's subject to the approval of a contract and the submittal of the required bonds and insurance for the program. Those items have not yet been reviewed, but the actual council action really is the award of the low bid submittal by Gustafson HDD this evening. But again, it is subject to the approval of an acceptable contract and the required bonds and insurance being submitted.
Through the chair, to be clear too, the desire to have a tentative agreement in place first was a requirement by Eagle.
Yeah, and through the chair, Dan, it's really, they're looking to see that the award of the bid has been made.
Yes, that is correct.
Right.
It is a requirement of this
the contracts haven't been provided yet.
Exactly. Just like any of our other projects.
Right. So it's a two-step process. The action that's being sought is the approval of the low bid award, subject to an acceptable contract and the required bonds and insurance being in order, which will be provided, and council will be approving that once it's reviewed by the city and in a position to come to council.
That is correct.
Hopefully that answers your question, Councilwoman Mikulski.
It does. Thank you.
So, all right. At this time, if there's no other questions from council, we'll need a motion to proceed.
I'll take a crack at it based on our city attorney's guidance. I move to accept the low bid award by Gustafson HDD LLC, subject to negotiation and approval of a contract and required bonds and insurance being submitted.
Support.
All right, moved by Councilwoman James, supported by Councilwoman Polika. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Polika?
Yes.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May,
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski,
Yes.
and Mayor Piana.
Yes. And that concludes 9A, and now moving on to 9B. Consideration of the resolution for a temporary moratorium of zoning requirements to permit temporary outdoor storage for COVID-19 testing facility at 150 and 200 Livernois. And introducing this tonight is our planning manager, Justin Lyons.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As the mayor stated, at 150 and 200 Livernois, there is a current COVID-19 testing lab under operation. There's an existing permanent structure at the site where the majority of the work is done, but there are some storage containers that are temporarily being used at the site for emergency equipment and supplies. As you may know, the city zoning ordinance has a specific section about accessory buildings, structures, and uses, and includes a section that's specific to storage containers and more portable, similar containers, I guess. And so there are specific requirements, including a 30-day maximum requirement for those types of containers. And so when the applicants, Olive Biosciences, had reached out to staff about the potential business and had been operating, we had talked about different avenues to consider when requesting a variance or a change from the zoning ordinance. Due to the nature of the current pandemic that's going on, the applicant and staff thought that potentially the conversation with City Council would be the best way to start sort of an appeal process. So in the packet, you'll see some attached plans and also a resolution for City Council's consideration. So this resolution would put a temporary moratorium on the zoning ordinance until November 30th of 2021 for specifically for storage containers for this site. So what that means is that very similar to the igloos and some of the other structures that council approved for temporary use, we aligned the expiration of this particular resolution to be the same expiration of November 30th, 2021. And this seemed the best route just because of the ongoing pandemic and need for testing facilities in the region. And so this is really specific to this property and to this use. So, if someone else wanted to propose another COVID-19 tested facility that had storage containers, they'd have to kind of go through the same process. So this is sort of a specific case. So I wanted to make sure to point that out. The applicants from Olive Biosciences are here. Heather chimed in earlier, and so she's probably able to answer more specific questions about the operations that mayor and council may have, but staff's here, and the city attorney also helped staff draft the draft resolution.
I'm here, yeah.
Thanks, Justin. Heather, would you like to say any comments before I open it up for questions to council?
Yeah, I just, out of respect, wondering how long I should speak for, just to make sure that I don't overspeak it here.
We usually let applicants speak to get their point across, but.
Okay, great. I'll try to keep it very concise. So my name is Heather Heine. I'm a Canadian MD PhD who is a proud resident of Ferndale. And last year, our laboratory, which was doing research on contaminant testing, PFAS being a primary target, we heard Governor Whitmer request assistance from everyone with medical training to assist with the pandemic. And our women and minority-owned laboratory decided to get involved as best we could. And we sought and achieved high complexity CLIA certification, which is a federal laboratory certification required to offer FDA authorized testing services to the community here. And I will say that being, in the health system, And then getting involved in this has been a very, unlike any experience I've ever had. And I just, I want to mention to you folks and also the folks perhaps listening that I've come to appreciate there might be two different or a few different experiences of this pandemic. You know, some of us are inconvenienced by what's happening, and then there's folks that are having very, very painful experiences as a result of this. And then there's folks in the health system who are going through something that I think will take us a few years to, you know, process, I guess you could say. I want to also mention that it is expected 170,000 more people in the United States may die between now and the fall. And so this is still a very real concern for all of us. And even though we are experiencing a lot of fatigue and, you know, maybe getting a bit desensitized, this is still a very, very important health issue. So our laboratory assists right now residential care facilities in the Upper Peninsula and around the state, as well as travelers seeking pre-flight testing. A lot of folks in those facilities we're supporting are very vulnerable to this, this disease and this virus. So we offer a 24-hour turnaround for them, which is, I think, unique in the state at this time. Our lab also receives supplies that are in short, supplies that are hard to get a hold of from FEMA at the moment. We're on a list that receives those emergency sample collection devices. And on very short notice, we acquired a few shipping containers to hold these supplies, not knowing what else to do because our internal laboratory spaces became quite constrained with just trying to do the work we're doing. So we were hoping during this time in the circumstances that we're in that we could request a waiver of having those containers on the location. I think we proceeded through the process of building permit, and then we would have to go through a different zoning meeting that might be a month or two from now. So instead we're hoping to speak with council about that request. And you know, I just like to mention, we understand this is temporary use, and these containers are available to be, you know, viewed by anyone that would like to see them. They're holding the sample collection tubes and swabs, as well as emergency backup deep freezers, minus 80 Celsius, emergency biosafety cabinets that our staff need to work in case of, to handle this, these specimens, and emergency backup generator. So we had a power incident next to us when a power line kind of fell during one of the storms, and thankfully we didn't have a power outage, but it's we're holding quite a lot of very sensitive liquid consumable reagents that allow us to do this testing that are also very difficult to get a hold of. So we're hoping to have those tools handy in case of any kind of unexpected power outages that we have. Yeah, and I maybe want to mention as a piece of context to our plan, we've also begun to be involved in a new project since I submitted our initial request, backed by Bill Gates Foundation-led group, I believe, Ginkgo Bioworks, who's seeking to assist the state of Michigan with a K-12 student testing. And they're in discussions with the governor's office at the moment, and we're one of the laboratories that are definitely being considered to assist them. This work is done for, you know, quite a lot of a discount to support students across the state, and is a part of a nationwide infrastructure program that is being rolled out that will provide this type of screening infrastructure for all schools in September, because I think teachers are perhaps demanding that occur, which is reasonable when you consider the potential exposures they would have. But, you know, we all want our kids to get back to school as soon as we can and feel, you know, some sense of normalcy anyway. So we're involved in this project, and this would require quite a lot more activity on our end. It may begin this next month. And so I've submitted as well a second letter just discussing what we call our phase B, where we might ask for permission to use some of these containers as offices Our laboratory currently exists inside our building, and it hasn't sufficient capacity to support the state in this effort. But the staff are at their computer stations right now getting kind of crammed against the wall trying to work and do multiple things at once. So we're looking to do that as well. I won't talk much about it because it was just a recent letter we submitted. Happy to answer questions on that. And also mention that our long-term plan in what I could call phase C is that we do proceed with a standard building permit application for a larger building at our location. We just, in the interest of time, have realized that a 1 to 2 month review of that isn't maybe going to work with the level of testing that's currently being requested and needed, I think, in the state. So our long-term plan is, to be a great neighbor and submit a proper part of the process here. We love the city. We would love to continue to work here, and we're employing folks from here in our lab. Ferndale. So, we all care a lot about what happens in these areas, and yeah, I think I'll leave it with that, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about what we're doing and how it works if anyone has any interest.
Thank you, Heather. And now I'm going to open it up for council to ask questions of staff and of the applicant.
If I may, through the chair, I just want to make sure that I understand. So these storage containers would hold the equipment, but there's also a site on site that would also provide the testing. I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Sure, no problem. So our current building at 150 Livernois, we own both 150 and 200 Livernois, so there's two pieces there. And I think there's a survey I included in our letter. The building that we have there is our laboratory activity. So our COVID-19 testing is sort of done in the equivalent of like, it's like a, how would it be? It's like 2 microwaves. It's like a little set of instruments and robots that we do that in. So we have all of our lab activities going on inside our, in the building there, but we are needing, I think, certainly storage for these collection devices as a first request. And then a second request, which I'm not sure if that's appropriate tonight, is that we do use some of our property there that's vacant to house office spaces inside containers as well.
And I just have if I may, I just have a second, more of a comment.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, thank you for wanting to step up and to assist with that. Nobody expected this pandemic, but we need all the help that we can get so that we can return to some sort of sense of normalcy.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, I think you mentioned that your business was a woman-owned business. And seeing how, I think you also mentioned that the term minority along with that. And I just want to say that women, we're no minorities. So minority is considered less than, so
Mm-hmm.
just the term. So I would just say we're not that. And I think women-owned businesses are fantastic. So just I wanted you to know that the term minority is considered.
Oh, yeah.
Then.
Oh, I apologize for that. Yeah, I think my co-founder, Carol Chang, is a Taiwanese American. And so we are just, all of our staff are very passionate and diverse group. And, we are making a real commitment to make sure they are appreciated for what they're doing right now. I think, honestly, guys, if I might just add, it's a little bit of a wartime situation, and the soldiers right now are these lab technicians, and they are often unsung heroes. Many of them touch hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of patients in a week, and that is making the difference here. So I appreciate your comments. We are. I think it's extraordinary, particularly with the kindergarten to grade 12 program. everyone in the supply chain is stepping up and reducing their prices and doing everything they can in an extraordinary way to try and help out with what these kids are experiencing. So there's a lot of incredible stories that I think will be told in the future about what's happening here. And yeah, it's heartbreaking, but also there's, I think, incredible hope for the future and new ways of doing things that I'm seeing and we're hoping to, you know, support.
Through the chair, questions of clarity. When you talk about supplies being stored within these containers, you're not talking about any type of like COVID samples, that type of thing. You're talking about just equipment supplies.
Correct. COVID samples are stored in locked freezers, and they're disposed of as per requirements as biohazardous waste. So sure. Just like any clinic or hospital does now. Mm-hmm. But no.
Yeah, I'm not concerned that you're not following those type of you know, policies and requirements. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that no live virus or vaccines are going to be stored in these units, so that nobody gets this, you know, wise idea that, oh, I should break in there and get some of this stuff.
No. I mean, I think very paramount in our activities is what the risks of doing this are.
Absolutely.
And, how to properly handle these materials, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no way that any of this is outside of our laboratory. And the procedures we have in place, you know, we did pass a CLIA inspection in November with, you know, went very well, and we had no issues with our procedures.
Excellent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I had, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
I had a few questions. Can we talk a little bit about how many vehicles are expected to come to that property on a daily basis? I drove past earlier today. The parking lot's very small, with the shipping containers taking up that additional area. I worry that if you are having patients come there, that there may not be enough parking for them. So could you tell me, are you expecting to see primarily patients at the location, or are you getting, are you having samples sent to you primarily?
Yeah, we've been supporting travelers with pre-flight testing. I would say at the moment it's probably, you know, 3 or 4 people a day. Actually, we don't advertise that very much. But what we do as a bulk of our activity is everything. Most laboratories now, it comes through FedEx. So samples are delivered in bulk and, you know, in the hundreds. And so that's how we process. There are some cars parked out there, and those are our staff cars. And we're trying to keep them on the asphalt that we have there. Yeah.
Could you also take a moment to talk a little bit about the sonic boom incident? Sure. And how we can make sure that we don't have any sort of safety issues in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had, essentially we had these supplies on site, and they began to freeze, we realized. And so we had somebody attempting to insulate a container, and they found that we purchased very expensive insulation that was custom for containers. It was corrugated and you know, nice pieces of styrofoam that you glue inside the container, and that seems to work very well in regular temperatures. But in cold temperatures, the glue appears to not cure to the side of the containers, and so we had one contractor frustrated with this walk off the job. Another contractor was very kind and knew the situation, attempted to come in and insulate a container. It appears that one of the heaters that was used in the container maybe had a propane leak, or the container's temperature caused the glue volatiles to concentrate in the container. And so there was, that gas appeared to have expelled itself, and there was a very loud sound. This was something not to do with our lab operations. I wasn't aware of how that was being done. So nothing that we were doing as part of our laboratory was a part of this process. We conducted an investigation, spoke with the manufacturer. It seems like most folks were quite surprised about what happened. Needless to say, we will not use that insulation or try to do that again. And we did speak with several community members in the area about it to explain what had happened. And, we actually were surprised. We did receive a lot of support for what we were doing, even though this had occurred. So, it's something that we regret. No one was harmed, and it was something we're sort of moving ahead from, if we can. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Councilwoman James?
Yeah, this question is, I guess, I don't know if you go by Dr. Hine and staff, I would say both of you. Other than the sonic boom incident, have there been other concerns raised by neighbors about noise created by the containers, slamming doors, things like that? Anything else that we should be thinking about?
If you're not that I'm aware of, if this is Heather speaking, yeah, I'm not aware of any other issues with that, but open to hearing feedback if there is.
How about on the city staff side? Any noise complaints or other complaints?
Not to the Community and Economic Development Department. I know that our building team has been out there to inspect things since the incident that was discussed, but there haven't been any complaints that have been sent to me anyway.
And if someone called, say, the police non-emergency number to report a concern, would that necessarily get funneled to CED?
Usually it would for, a newer use like that. Yes.
That's all for me.
Thank you. And Heather, I have some questions too. I think that, the concerns about the sonic boom are real, and that the safety precautions are going to be going at your standards of procedure and risk management. I think you have to prove that to the state as well, that those procedures are going to be in place, and that another sonic boom won't happen. I know you don't want to have another sonic boom and lose your own property and damage to your medical supplies, because that goes as a loss. I get it. But it was a very surprising event for our residents, and a lot of concern expressed. And a lot of people were very worried about their property, and more important, really worried about personal care of any individuals who may have been hurt and fortunately were not. So, for me, it's about making sure that this doesn't happen again, because we are providing temporary containers and sort of bypassing our own processes to, support a business who's really trying to rapidly adapt and grow during a pandemic, and take advantage of your expertise in this call to action response to provide support in the effort. So I get it. But I need to feel a little bit more reassured that your risk management and your standards of procedures are going to be have been put in place to mitigate this from ever happening again.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to provide no containers will be insulated at the location or constructed at the location at all. The last thing we're interested in is scaring people, and we apologize. It was very, it was something that we didn't anticipate. I don't think many others anticipated it, but we will not have anything like that again. There's no propane heating, there's no propane tanks of any kind. I am personally interested in all permits that are submitted on our behalf and knowing what they are and understanding that we're following city procedures. To do this work, I have to follow a lot of federal procedures as it is, and I'm, understand why that is the case because of what's at stake when you don't. So I want to personally assure you that that is not something that we are going to allow to occur again. But if there's any other assurance we can provide, I'm a little new to the process of doing that in this context. But we would happily have inspections, which is, what we do at federal level. Whatever you think is, you'd guide us to do, we'd be happy to do that.
I'm going to relate that back to our new fire chief to work with our city manager on that. Sure. And making sure that the right protocols, because if this is all new and things are being done on the fly, rapidly, there might not be something in place, but needs to be thought about as a response. I don't know what those requirements either, but the reassurances on that would make me feel better about, and I think it would make the neighborhood feel better, even though they've expressed their support for you. Nobody really wants a sonic boom again in their community. So, and we're really supportive here of helping businesses expand. I get the sense that the mode you're in and these containers are helping you do that in a rapid way. You mentioned that you're interested in having you mentioned you're having some timing challenges with these temporaries and getting ready and getting permitted to expand onto your building, right? So I know that staff will work with you on that, but I did hear you mention, and correct me, but you mentioned that you're running out of office space and that you were hoping to have staff sort of relocate in the containers or in some other temporary structure. Is that's not included in this?
No, it's not included. I was hoping, I was in discussion with the staff about what to do regarding that. Similar to at a construction site, you have these construction offices that can be placed temporarily at a construction location. So just a simple office is what we were hoping to do, just to allow computer workstations. But that's a separate letter that we were advised to provide, which we did. So I'm just mentioning it as we are in the timeline of these meetings. Things are just happening very quickly. So I'm in touch with staff about what we can or can't, can maybe do to pre-advise or inform about what we're interested in requesting. So that's not on the agenda today. Today is just hoping to use the containers that are there as storage.
Right. Well, I'm generally supportive of this with the, standards of operating procedure and review of our fire chief. I know they've already went through it, but prevention is something key that our fire department is in, and they want you to be successful and safe. And sort of going through that again as part of this review, a short-term permit process, I think is critical to help me feel more assured that we're, protecting the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
But also, I'm a little concerned about your overlap of being temporary places versus needing to construct. At some point, you're going to have to remove those temporary places to actually construct. And so I'm not sure how that's all going to work, and I know staff will make that work. I just want to make sure we're not making the temporary, there's not going to be a request to extend 9 months from now. And then there's just sort of like lots of accessory buildings on the property. How do we help your business move into appropriate expansion? And I think our staff is going to be wanting to be looking at how to do that with you.
Thanks, Mayor. And if I could just chime in briefly. Yeah, so I spoke with Heather and Carol a little bit last week about this latest proposal because things have been moving very fast. And so I did say, certainly okay to mention future plans to Mayor and Council, and staff will share, more of those details. And I appreciate Heather did turn around quickly with that second letter. And so I can put together, the step-by-step process for that, for whether it's the Planning Commission or Council to consider coming up.
Right. Well, let me restate where I'm at. Is that I'm supportive of doing an extension because of the pandemic. But 9 months from now, I hope that we're moving out of the temporary need and that we're not going to be in pandemic mode. And so I'm more interested in helping you expand your property and your business into a full building rather than doing an extension of your temporary units to act, right? So that's kind of where I'm at.
I completely understand and agree, and I hope that our activities at the site will allow the pandemic to actually be gone by then. That's actually what we're trying to do. So I totally understand, and we intend to remove them. We have many containers in another property in another city that are being, storing items as well. And so we understand that this needs to be temporary, and we don't want to create an unattractive facility there at all. We actually would love to do something really positive, and I intend to proceed. We have architects already have prepared drawings for the building. We just haven't really got the resources right now to do that, I think is what it is. We need to put them into medical supplies. But yeah.
All right, well, our team can connect you to economic development resources via the state and the county and see where they can help you.
Thank you.
Are there other questions from council? If not, we need to go into a motion.
I move that we approve the temporary moratorium of zoning requirements to permit temporary outdoor storage for a COVID-19 testing facility at 150 and 200 Livernois, as submitted by the planning manager.
Support.
Moved by Polika, supported by Mikulski. Madam Clerk, or are there comments? Sorry, any other comments from council at this time before?
Yeah, I just want to say Justin for bringing this directly to council. Having served on the BZA for 6 years, I know that this would have taken a lot more time to be reviewed, and the BZA would be determined. They would need to determine a unique situation with the property or a hardship by the property owner, and I don't think they could have done that with the limitations that they have, and it would have then ended up with us here. So I'm glad that Justin had the foresight to bring it directly to council. For me, this is a no-brainer. Yes, there isn't a hardship by the property owner, or the property isn't unique within the city, but we are in a unique situation, and since this is a temporary request, and to me, the quality of life for the surrounding properties are not negatively impacted by the storage unit existing on the property, I'm comfortable supporting this request.
All right, see no other comments from council. I'm going to ask our clerk to do the vote call.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May?
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski?
Yes.
Councilmember Polika?
Yes.
And Mayor Piana?
Yes. Good luck, Heather, to your team. And love to meet you in person someday, but until you're out of your deep work with the pandemic, call me and we can get together, talk.
Thanks, you guys. Yeah, I really appreciate it. We're trying our best here to help folks. And, we will do our best, of course, for our neighbors. And if the city needs any support, we stand with the city and the schools and the residents here as well. So if we can help anyone else out here, we will.
Thank you. Have a good evening. All right, folks, we're moving on to the last item of the agenda of the evening, and it is 9C, approval of cured in place pipe sewer rehabilitation contract extension with Institute Form Technologies USA in the estimated amount of $396,000, $40,000, $396 and $40,000.50. The expense charged to Water Sewer Fund Capital Outlay account number 592-000-977, and approval for the DPW director to sign contract documents following the approval of the city attorney. Dan Atostic, welcome back. It is like the Dan Atostic show tonight, DPW.
Hey, thank you, Mayor and Council. I know this is what everyone has been waiting around for, the most interesting topic of the night, cured in place pipe. Now, some of you may recall, probably last year at this time, we came to Council for the approval of a contract award to In Situ Form for our first year of cured in place pipe work. For the term spanning fiscal year 20 into 21. So with that contract, the way that it was worked out, because it is a multi-year project, that it was a contract award with tentative two consecutive 1-year possible extensions to the contract. So where we are at now within the process is we're almost complete, pretty much almost completed with year 1 of the contract. And when I say almost completed is we have another 500 foot of sewer that we need to finish lining that will take place once the weather breaks for good. We get into some warmer temperatures and we can continue that work. Overall, we are happy with the work that has been done by In Situ Form with our sewer lining this contract year. So what we are recommending is that we extend In Situ Form's contract for an additional year to continue this work. So contract year 1, the city of Ferndale awarded In Situ Form our cured in place pipe contract, which was for roughly 3.6 miles of sewer lining, which they completed at satisfactory workmanship. And year 2 of this contract would be for approximately 1.5 miles of sewer lining that would be completed. Now, the thing to note with this is that while this is a contract extension that we're bringing forth to council right now, this work would not start until fiscal year 2022. So this work would not begin until after July 1 of 2021. And this would consist of roughly 8,200 miles of sewer lining completed by In Situ Form. And that would be sprinkled throughout the community. Within the agenda item itself, there is a map of the sections of sewer that would be lined within this contract itself. So with this contract, we are recommending that we do a year extension with In Situ Form. Now, one of the things to note with this is with the anticipation that this work needed to be performed, the city budgeted $750,000 per year over the course of this potential contract period, whether it be with In Situ Form or another contractor to perform this work. The second year of this contract, while the city budgeted $750,000 to do this work, what is required within this contract period is an estimated dollar amount of $396,040 to complete this segment of cured in place pipe sewer lining that needs to be completed. Like I said, we've had a good experience this past year with in situ form. We are recommending to bring them back into the city again. Things have been going well. We're continuing on the path of completing this additional sewer lining to get additional years out of our older sewer main. Everything has been going well, and we recommend extending this contract out for an additional year. And while, like I said earlier, this is a multi-year deal, this contract extension is only for the following fiscal year. So that work gets completed, everything goes well, we potentially bring back an additional contract extension, or we recommend one of the other contractors that bid on this contract itself. So we want to keep lining sewers. It's been a great experience thus far. While it can be a semi-stinky inconvenience for a few hours, there is a long-term benefit that this work contributes to. So the Department of Public Works, Giffords and Webster, our on-staff engineering firm, we're recommending doing a contract extension with in situ form for an additional year for cured in place pipe. And with that, I'll take any questions from council.
All right. Are there questions from council about lining these pipes? We do it every year.
Yeah, that's right. No questions. It seems like we're always approving this thing.
Hey, infrastructure is the most important thing of our city and homes, keeping us in working functions and high quality of life. So if there's no questions from council, we need a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve the cured in place pipe sewer rehabilitation contract extension with in situ form. Every time I see their truck, I have to pronounce it. Technologies USA LLC in the estimated amount of $396,040.50. The expense charged to sewer, water sewer fund, capital outlay, account number 592000977, and approve the DPW director to sign the contract documents following approval by the city attorney.
Support. Moved by Councilwoman James, and I think support by Mikulski. Was that right?
Yes.
Excellent. Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem Leaks May.
Yes.
Councilmember Mikulski.
Yes.
Councilmember Polika.
Yes.
Councilmember James.
Yes.
And Mayor Piana.
Yes, and that passes. And Dan Atostic, I just want to say good job tonight. You've had a lot to go through tonight. So thank you for all of your hard work. All right, we're moving on to call to council, and it's split into two parts: city staff updates from our directors and then city council. And we're going to hand this over to our city manager, Joe, to lead the city department directors updates.
Thank you, Mayor. Dan, congrats on your Super Bowl tonight. That was your moment. In February is finance moment. So we're going to start with finance director, Cheryl Stubblefield, to give an update on everything in finance world in February.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Give me just a second and let me pull my notes back up. I just kind of want to let everybody know that February is tax month, as we all know. The February 14th is normally the due date, but the 15th is a holiday, so everyone has until February 16th to pay your winter taxes. The people who are paying their summer taxes on the payment plan have until March 1st to make their final payment for the summer taxes. At that point, March 2nd forward, everything will have to go out to the county for paying your property taxes. And I think that's all I have.
My 3-year-old has some choice words for council. Please ignore those. I would also add, Cheryl, the Board of Review has scheduled itself to be virtual. Is that correct? Or I'm sorry, to meet distance in council chambers. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, it has. Hang on. I didn't pull all my notes up. Silly me. Okay. So the Board of Review is scheduled to be socially distanced in the council chambers March 2nd and 3rd, and then March 8th and 9th. The county assessor will be available via telephone or Zoom during scheduled appointment times for those who are uncomfortable with coming to City Hall to meet in person. Residents can proactively schedule their Board of Review appointments before February 26th by contacting Oakland County Equalization Division. And that telephone number is toll-free 888-350-0900, extension 88793, or directly through by 248-858-8793. And I'll make sure that communications has these numbers and they're up on our website. We are encouraging people to schedule as early as possible to give the assessor plenty of time to look up your property and make sure that there's not any discrepancies or anything like that. The assessor will accept written appeals until the close of the boards on March 9th. I think that's it.
Appreciate that, Cheryl.
Thank you.
My 3-year-old has exceeded her 3-minute allotment for comment. We're hoping she vacates. Next up, we have our city clerk, Marty McGrath, with an exciting announcement for her department.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, I wanted to announce that today our new deputy clerk, Hira Khan, started. Hira is not with us this evening. I decided to take it easy on her after the meeting hit 9 o'clock. So, you know, first one's kind of a giveaway. So Hira will be with us next time for you to meet her personally. But she has her government experience through several positions with Health Canada, and she has has a master's in international affairs through Carleton University in Ottawa, Canada, where she is originally from. She is going to be an amazing addition to our staff. And, you know, after day one, I'm already pleased with her work and, you know, very excited to have her join us. So we'll have her introduce herself personally at the next meeting. But while I do have your attention, I will make a note that we do have board and commission openings right now, and we are accepting applications until the 15th. So right now we are, let me pull my notes up. We have openings. Actually, we do have a seat open on the Board of Review. So that would definitely be a timely fill if someone were interested in applying for that. We have openings also on the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Construction Board of Appeals, and the Downtown Development Authority. And anyone wanting to apply can just go to our city website, go under the Government tab for boards and commissions, and then scroll to the Vacancies tab, and you can click directly on the board that you're interested in and apply from there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marnie, and welcome, Hira. Next, we have our Director of Community and Economic Development, Jordan Torty, with a brief update.
Thank you, Joe. What I think your daughter was trying to say earlier was that we have a community meeting coming up for the Ayton Woodward project on February 18th. That's at 8 p.m. And if you go to ferndalemi.gov and click on current projects, click on the Ayton Woodward project, all the Zoom information is there. We're very excited to give a human services update on that project. We've been hard at work with our colleagues across 8 Mile in Detroit and several nonprofit partners. We have a lot of exciting news to share on that project, and we're looking forward to it. So join us at 2/18 at 8 p.m. and just check us out at ferndalemi.gov.
Thank you, Jordan. And Cheryl, we did have one last announcement we missed. There is a vacancy on the Board of Review. And so we would encourage anybody interested to apply for said board through the city's website through February 15th to be considered for an appointment. From the city manager's office, I have two brief announcements. One, just a reminder that we are closed. City Hall will be closed in observance of President's Day, the often forgotten federal holiday that is observed by all local governments across the land. So we will be closing City Hall on that day. That is next Monday, February 15th. Parking enforcement is also suspended as part of that observance for that Monday. That is noted on the city's website. Announcement is a brief update from the DDA director. I'll be giving that on her behalf. Lena was unable to attend tonight's meeting, but she does intend to present council with a vetted plan for social district to be considered at the next meeting, and she'll be presenting that item as well to the DDA board meeting at their planned meeting scheduled for, I believe it's this Thursday morning. So the board will receive a social district update, and then council will also receive that same request at the next meeting. And then finally, just a reminder that we do plan on introducing several new police officers during the next city council meeting as part of a presentations agenda. Because of that, it will be simpler and more effective for us to present them all at council chambers. If you recall back in September, we ran a hybrid test meeting. This is another opportunity for elected officials who can and are willing to attend and sit at your chair in council chambers. I will be there to help the chief present, and we'll be doing a simulcast broadcast as well. Attendance is certainly not required, but the seats are available if you're welcome. And that's it.
Thank you, everybody. Now we're moving on to call to council, and I'm going to start with Councilman Mikulski.
I have nothing additional tonight.
You're on mute, Mayor.
Twice in one night. Sorry. Speaking of Zoom muted faux pas, Mayor Pro Tem, was that a nothing tonight?
That is nothing tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Polika.
I have nothing tonight either.
Councilwoman James.
Nothing.
All right, well then I will wrap it up with one thing. I received an email today or this week from a resident who is inquiring when the city of Ferndale and council were going to start setting up vaccine sites and delivering vaccines. And I know this is a really big need and desire, and everybody's anxious to get in line and receive a vaccine. But pretty much like testing for COVID, cities like Ferndale are really small, and we do not have a health department, and so we are very restricted by law what we can and cannot do. Therefore, we are dependent on Oakland County to be our guide, setting up vaccine sites and deploying vaccines to the appropriate distributors, pharmacies, CVS, Walgreens, on behalf of cities like ours. So, you know, we get a lot of comparisons with the city of Detroit, which has a health department, and the mayor and that council are performing those activities, which are very similar to Oakland County. But we're in a very different case as a small city with no health department. And so I just wanted to let you know that we are working trying to coordinate with Oakland County. We have weekly meetings between the city managers, our fire chief, and police. I also meeting with the county when they reach out to all the mayors. So we're really keeping in touch and communicating and learning from the county when more vaccines will become available. And we hope to push out that information when we receive it by the county. And at this time, I encourage you to go to the county to sign up and get in line. That's not what y'all want to hear, but that is the process that is currently existing until more vaccines are deployed out into the communities. So that is all that I've had tonight, and stay safe. We're still, while all the cases are down, we still have this very new variant that is coming through, the virus variant coming through our communities, and it's expecting to be pretty predominant in Michigan by mid-March. So please still do your due diligence, even though restaurants are opening 25%, wear your mask, follow all the protocols, be kind, do what our business owners ask of you as a customer so that their employees stay safe and that you stay as safe as possible when you're enjoying the environment in Ferndale or any community of a restaurant or retail shop. So with that, thanks everybody tonight. Thank you to staff for all your hard work. Really appreciate you all. And with that, it is 9:59 and I'm calling this one. Everybody, see you next time. Have a good night.
Good night.
Night.